Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this third mini mastermind, which is called Creating the Impossible and Achieving What You Want. My name is Laurence Knott. I've hosted a few masterminds around different ideas around how the three principles of mind, consciousness, and thought, and the understanding of how the inside-out nature of life can transform so many different aspects of our life. And in the first couple of sessions, or in the second session particularly, we were looking at how we can find our voice and be free from things from our past that we feel that have been holding us back in some way. And particularly in the last session, we looked at freedom from bullying and being a victim of our circumstances. And one of the themes of that was how we give our power away innocently to other people and our circumstances. When we innocently believe that our experience is being created from anything other than the inside of us. And it was a really powerful conversation. And I think what came out of that is that with that understanding of the inside-out nature of life, so much about our past, our beliefs about our circumstances, and what controls us, if you like, can be impacted through the understanding. So then, in conversation after, amongst the people who participated, people were interested in looking forward, about creating something, setting goals, visions, just moving forward to be able to have the life you want. And as coaches, this is a powerful thing to be able to help people to create what they want in their life, but also for ourselves and people, in our lives. So the subject of creating the impossible and achieving what you want, I've just had some initial reflections on it. Because as a coach and knowing lots of coaches and having studied NLP, hypnotherapy, and a lot of other sort of modalities around, you can create the future you want. And some people explore setting goals and SMART goals. Others talk about setting a vision, a bold vision for the future and being able to see yourself there. Others talk about finding your purpose. And the recent thing I've been hearing is about people talk about finding your why. So that's all well and good. What I'm interested in is how we create that vision for our future and where that's really coming from. So that was going to be my sort of opening gambit, really, having recently spent some time with Jack Pransky, a very experienced teacher of the three principles and the inside-out understanding around what we know and what we think, what we know or what we think we know and what we could know. And the place from which we create the vision for what we want in life and for creating the impossible. And what I discovered was when we start thinking about the future based on what we already know or what we think we know, we can be limited in some way. And it's somehow being able to tap into that place where it's the unknown and what we could know, and which is massive and expansive. That in there lies, I think, the place where we can get beyond our limitations. So that's why the line, creating the impossible, is being able to imagine beyond what you can imagine would be possible. And so as a process, to be able to completely step beyond one's limitations. So that's a bit of context where I think, this is the start of the conversation. As with previous conversations, I really welcome it going on whatever path it takes and everyone contributing in whatever way. But first we're going to do some introductions and I'm going to hand over to Fiona to introduce herself.
Hey everyone, my name's Fiona and I'm a transformational coach. I'm also a very keen raw food and green juicing and sprouting expert, which I've been doing for the last 3 years. And I guess my focus is really around health and where we can take the three principles towards staying very healthy and free of disease. But I'm also really interested in what is possible, because I really believe that we can dream super big. And I didn't once, which is the most interesting thing. And to be honest, since I've started looking in this direction, things have become so much more possible. And I was just reflecting back the other day that, 6 years ago, I remember sitting in a personal development seminar, possibly coming up for 7 years, and looking at the person on stage thinking, oh, I wish I could be that person on stage. It would be, but I was literally so timid. And so, it just did not seem like a possibility. And yet right now, I'm really not that far away from it. Really not that far away from it. So anything really is possible. And certainly with this understanding, it really accelerates things. That's my experience. I've lost your sound, Laurence. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was busy unmuting Sandie.
Right.
I was just saying, being in that place where anything is possible is a lovely place, a lovely space to be in right now. So thank you. And Sandie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandie Martel. I'm a transformational coach as well, working mainly with people going through divorce and separation, and people with very low confidence and self-esteem. And the reason why I'm very interested in the subject of creating the impossible is through my own experience, through wanting to create something, having an idea about what I want to create, but actually once I started living it on the side, I created so much more, so it's really, I sort of limited myself with some goals in a way. And I didn't know that it was possible to go above, to go beyond what you actually expected. And it's, so that's why I'm very interested in the subject. So to explore that as well.
Great, thanks, Sandie. And like you say, limiting myself with goals, that's maybe something, what we do have in mind. And our thinking around innocently creating an idea of what we want for the future. And it could be a big, ambitious goal, but that can limit us in some way. So maybe we'll be exploring that. But before we do, Niko, welcome.
Thank you, Laurence. My name is Niko Lepannen. I'm an entrepreneur. I just recently made a transition to become a self-employed coach and event organizer and a bunch of other things that I'm doing. So I'm not quite sure what's the correct label there, but there's something, this topic, creating the impossible, is very relevant to me right now, because I'm actually about to launch something that's related to this. In September, I'm organizing a conference called, 2-day conference in Helsinki, Finland, called Unlimited 2015. And the tagline for the conference is, at the moment, making the impossible possible. So when I saw your post about this mini mastermind group, I was like, it's definitely for me. I think there's something there, because I would say, like, going back 12 months, organizing a conference and overall being self-employed was something that was not in my radar. If someone told me that, this is what you're going to do, I would probably have said, no, that's impossible. That's not me. So I'm really looking forward to exploring this topic with you.
Lovely. And isn't it nice to reflect back over what's happened over the last 12 months and almost to go back into that old thinking and say, wow, what does that tell me? That if I thought this would be impossible, and you didn't even maybe have an idea back then that you would be even creating what you're creating now. And I've actually been hanging around with a number of other Scandinavians. So anyone watching or in Britain, I know roughly what Niko's got planned for the conference, and I do encourage people to go. It could be an amazing event. I know there's going to be some amazing speakers, but from my own experience, it's the people in the room. And that's where a lot of the creation happens, the dynamic between different people. And it's lovely to think that this conversation today can in some way inform, Niko, what you're going to be doing there and taking it forward from today. So fantastic. And finally, Gunter, welcome.
Yeah, hi, my name is Gunter. I'm a coach and I coach without limits. And to go beyond the limits is stepping outside the dream. Because as long as it's a dream, it's just that, a dream. And to make it reality, to create whatever it is we want to create, we need to step outside the dream. So let's see where this conversation goes and see what we can get out of it.
Cool. Well, Gunter, I like that line straight away, about stepping out of the dream and making it reality. You know, when I've thought about, what I want to create in the future, and, I've got some opportunities coming up, some new adventures, and I've been thinking about, what might happen as a result of that and what it could be a springboard for. And sometimes it doesn't feel like a dream. I have a bit of a vision, and almost like a metaphorical vision, that I will be sat with a particular person talking about what I could do for him or create with his company, or maybe creating something with this person. And for me, it's just like this metaphor, and I'm not tied to that visualization, which is not a dream as such, but it's in my imagination. It's just what it represents. And something that I picked up from Jamie Smart recently about being open to possibilities and setting a general direction. Smart goals, it just sort of makes my nose ruffle, and having plans, and having clarity on how you're going to get to where, the steps, that doesn't feel a place where I can create the impossible, and be open to just new possibilities and the way life unfolds, that you're never quite sure what's around the corner. So, by setting that direction and being open to new possibilities, I may have a broad idea of where I'm going, but by being open to, I don't know who I'm going to meet, or what new ideas are going to come into my life as a result of me having experiences day to day, week by week. And as Niko was finding out, just being able to reflect back now and again and say, I'm creating stuff beyond what my imagination could wildly have thought of. And even if we didn't even have an idea, we'd be creating it now. Being able to almost like step back into time and say, no, I couldn't do that. Well, what is that telling us when we're already noticing, I'm achieving something and I'm moving in a direction where, maybe I'm creating the impossible. So any thoughts on just setting some kind of idea for where you want to go? Is that a useful thing to do, and how tightly do we hold on to that, and is it useful for promoting action, if you like? Anyone want to come in there?
I don't know, actually, because I used to have this this allergy to setting goals, and I think it was, before I came to this understanding, I think I was really struggling with, if I set a goal and then I didn't reach it, I was going to be beating myself up. And I just didn't, I was so reluctant to actually set goals, because there was this fear in me that I just wouldn't reach them. So I'm not really sure how useful goal setting is in that, to that degree. And I know Jamie Smart talks about, toxic goals versus heartfelt desires. And, like now I have a goal that I want to do a handstand by the end of the year and be able to walk on my hands a bit. And that's wholly a heartfelt desire. Because if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's a goal. And, there's nothing toxic about that goal for me. There's nothing that I'm going to be beating myself up about if I don't achieve it. But one of my past mentors said to me, we were doing one of these sort of big vision boarding type workshops, In fact, it's more than vision boarding, it's sort of strategic manifestation as well. And he said to me, "Who are the goal police, Fiona?" And that really struck me, because there aren't actually any goal police. The only goal police there is me. And when I get out of my own way, things will happen. And, you know, I was really in my own way, because I just couldn't even set them. I wouldn't allow myself to think about what it was I really wanted to do, in case I never got there.
I think it's the way we think about what we are able to create, you know, it's all to do with the way we think anyway. But we tend to limit ourselves to certain things because that's what we know, you know, that even though sometimes with goals, you know, we try and get somewhere else, you know, try and do something different, but still you're still limiting yourself, I think, with your thinking, because with what you currently know. And it's great to be able to live that, you know, to be able to leave that on the side and just see what comes up. Just be open and be curious, I think, about what might happen. And that's what you say, Fiona, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and that curiosity, you know, Fiona, I love what you said there. And it's that thing about certain kinds of goals can have consequences. If I don't achieve this, and even if we're not really consciously aware of it, there's something in the background that I'll be happy when kind of goals, or I really want this, but what will it tell me about myself if I don't? And being open, being more curious to, see, when we talk about goals, it becomes a thing, it becomes fixed. And we've possibly created some meaning. And that, I think, is what Jamie's talking about. We talked about toxic goals. There's so much riding on it, so much at stake, but we've turned it into this form. And it's part of who we are. It's part of, it's almost like it hangs around. It's like, you know, it's meant to be this rainbow vision of the future. It's like, no, it becomes almost we're not running away from it, but there's a lot at stake.
Yeah.
And that place of curiosity seems, from what you're saying, Sandie, a place from which to create something bigger. There's still something in our mind about how the future might unfold, but it feels bigger and it doesn't feel as solidified into anything. Niko, you sort of brewing on something there.
Yeah, there are kind of two things that came to my mind when you started to talk about goals. And one thing is that what has really changed for me when it comes to goal setting is that I pay much more attention to where I'm coming from when I'm setting the goal. So am I coming from the place where I think that having that goal, achieving that goal, gives me something, gives me a sense of, you know, fulfillment or success or security or whatever that is. And I think what I've started to see is that when I come from that place, it becomes what Fiona and what Jamie calls a toxic goal. It's basically another way of saying that it's an outside-in goal. We think that the goal, whatever that is, once we have it, it gives us a feeling. And when we come from that place, then we put a lot of meaning to whether we get it or not, or whether what we do is a success or not. So if we set ourselves to do a certain project or whatever, and we have we set some kind of a criteria for success, and then if we don't reach that, you know, we say, okay, that was a failure. And it often looks like if we fail, then we're going to feel bad because, you know, we didn't reach our goal, we weren't successful, and what other people is going to see us as a failure or whatever. But the reality is that some of the biggest successes in human history have been have either come as a consequence of some kind of failure first, like failing yourself there, or actually the failure has been a success in disguise in a way. Like you find something else. I'm not quite sure about this, but I think it was it when they discovered penicillin or something like that? That was kind of an accident. So that's just an example of it's about the place we are coming from when you're setting the goal. So that's the distinction between a toxic goal and a heartfelt desire. And I completely lost my thought what the other thing was. So maybe we'll.
But that's perfect. I think we're saying there, and I was just immediately grappling for the Einstein quote about, was it the solution to a problem comes from a different level of consciousness? But the idea that failure is bad, failing at achieving a goal or one of the steps towards a goal, it's, where is that thinking coming from? What value are you putting on that? What are you really seeing when you're actually in the place of saying, I failed there? You've turned it into something, whether it's on the way towards something or when you get there and you look back and go, well, I failed there. It's probably become something very different anyway. And that's just such a place of judgment. And probably a place of judgment that was driven by, yes, what you said about the belief that that goal will give me something, the success, the security. And just, it doesn't work like that. We don't know, we're not going to get a feeling from that achievement.
I think, history is full of examples of people who have failed over and over and over again to do something. If Thomas Edison had given up, it took him over 1,000 times to get the light bulb to work. But he knew it was possible and he wasn't prepared to stop. So we have light. And, if J.K. Rowling had given up, we wouldn't have the massive thing that Harry Potter is right now. But, she went to hundreds of publishers who turned her down. And in the end, it was completely in her favor because the final one who actually said yes didn't take all the rights. So she was then able to sell the rights onto film, which has made her a multimillionaire. So, it's not always, there is no such thing as failure, really. And I think also the other thing about the toxicity for goals for me was that the idea that there was the police that had to do it how I set it out in the beginning. But in reality, as we're going through our paths, it's like flying an aeroplane. The pilot he never goes from A to B. He's heading in that direction, but it's shifting and correcting all the time, according to the circumstances of the air pressure, the weather, etc. that's going on around us. So even if we have an idea out there of where we want to go, we don't have to do it along the path that we initially think of as being an ideal. It can go via other routes. And it can also shift. You might get into something. Even with coaching, you start off coaching perhaps broad and general, but then you may find that all your clients come from a particular area. So it makes sense to niche in that area, or you particularly like working with a certain kind of people. So it makes sense to niche in that people. So again, that's a sort of shifting and correcting and making of decisions as you go along. So there's never a specific, it must be done like this, and if it isn't, then it's a failure. It's just about adapting to what we learn as we go along, and also adapting to our circumstances outside of us, our market, and just really being open and feeling it. I think feeling our way forward.
And that was lovely. I wrote a few things down there, and I'm sure Gunter will come in a minute on that. It's the idea that, if our eyes are more open, if we're aware, we're not sort of, we are tracking progress, but there's more stuff out there to learn, to navigate by, the unknown here, but there's opportunities. And if it's like that tunnel vision kind of thing, we're going to miss something. along the way. And things, they blossom and grow in ways that we couldn't imagine, because it's outside of our current level of consciousness of what could be created. And it almost like can take a life of its own, or we get shut off, and it has to be that way. Like building a house, you've got the plans, you know exactly what you want it to be. Well, maybe for building a house, that's the way to do it. But we're not building a house, we're building something bigger here. And that point about, what is possible, I think going back to when you first started talking, Fiona, and the people around us, it's like, or, if we were to ask advice, it's like, well, that's not going to be possible. And it's like how we determine the possibility. It's like, if a friend tells you, you must be mad if you think you want to work towards that, whatever, that's probably a good sign. So that we are thinking so expansively. And, as the conversation goes along, it'll be interesting in sort of how people work and what people are looking at there. It's like, come up with the craziest thing possible. But we're not quite there yet. And I'd love to hear from Gunter on the way he works and what he's heard so far. And I'm going to unmute you, Gunter.
Well, from my perspective, there are a couple of misunderstandings there, because we talk about goals, and goals sort of brings up the vision of something at the end of something. But to me, a goal at best can only ever be a stepping stone onto something else. And we talk about failure, but anything we do is a learning process. So if something doesn't work out, some people may call it a failure, but it is simply a learning process, that something didn't work out the way we had anticipated. And maybe there's enough understanding there that you can do it differently or use different resources or whatever to achieve what it is you wanted to achieve. And within that context, you only can ever deal with how life shows up, whether you're setting yourself goals, stepping stones, whether you're dealing with whatever you're doing, and whether you perceive it as failure or a learning process. And then as life evolves and as it shows up, you then have to deal with what shows up. And it may not always be according to your vision, your dreams, or your intentions, because life works that way.
And Gunter, that's interesting. You said that about, when you first spoke about dreams are just dreams. They're not reality. And I think we're all aware that it is just one step forward and one day at a time towards, and there's that feeling that if we're open to new possibilities and we feel like we're moving in the direction, as Fiona said, it can go in all sorts of different directions and curves, and actually a massive detour possibly, but there's learning there. And that growth mindset that people talk about what can I learn here? How can it inform my next step whilst loosely holding this vision for the future? That's just one way of looking at it. But bringing it back to the idea that if we are going to create the impossible, do we want to come up with something big that's beyond our wildest dreams? Or is it more sensible to break things down into stepping stones? Any thoughts there?
Well, everything is an evolutionary process. It's just the way how life unfolds. And learning implies stepping into the unknown. Because you cannot learn if you don't step outside your known world.
Without making any assumptions, what would you say is key? Because I'm not sure everyone knows how to do that or has access to the same resources to be open to that learning, to be able to step into the unknown. Or they feel like they want to step into the unknown. Sandie was exploring, something holds them back, or there's something limiting about, I don't want to say behavior, but their thinking, if you like. We always talk about self-sabotage and all that kind of thing, and then I think, oh, I've got so much potential and I could achieve so much more. You know, the people I work with, the things I've thought about over the years, it's like, yeah, that's a hell of a lot of thinking. And it's nice to learn from my experience, but that place of where I'm coming from about, am I missing something here? And bringing it to the topic title about creating the impossible. Some people don't want their life to be about setting this vision and coming up with the craziest vision, or achieving an impact in whatever way in their life. Or for some people, becoming absurdly rich. You know, it's whatever they want to do. It's people's right with their own will. And it's how we as coaches can help a wide range of people in creating the impossible, stepping beyond their limitations. What do guys think around how we work as coaches around helping step beyond their people's limitations, or what they think are their limitations?
I think there's a couple of things going on here, and one is, as you rightly say, it's what they think are their limitations, because all of us work in a way where we're looking to facilitate people to understand that thought gets in the way. And I know for a fact thoughts got in my way a lot in the past. But I think there's also, I think once you get that understanding of it, then suddenly limitations aren't so big. But I do think there's a real value in throwing something massive out there that you just don't think is possible, because it's amazing how when you verbalize something, you tell somebody else about something, about a dream, that suddenly it becomes a bit more real. And suddenly things start to just happen that take you in that direction. I mean, I literally could not have ever imagined that I would be confident enough to stand on a stage in front of, a couple of hundred people. And yet today I would happily do that. And I remember this particular person whose event I'd gone to, and he used to give away things, like he'd give away some of his programs, and you just had to go and roll this big dice thing off the edge of the stage, and then you'd get a certain number and you'd win a certain prize. Well, if you got the top prize, he used to make you dance in front of the audience, and I literally would quake in my shoes at the idea that I might get picked to have to go and do this, because it just seemed just something like I couldn't ever do. I wanted it so much, but I couldn't have even done it. And today I amaze myself at things that I really can do. And the reason that particular memory comes up is because he always used to call it a victory dance. You had to do this victory dance. And just at work, I mean, this is something that's really come out of the clarity in my mind, I think, and the getting in touch with my innate happiness is when I was at work. I've been working on some quite difficult financial adjustments and things, and sometimes they seem like we're never going to get to the bottom of them. And I was sitting with the consultant and we were working through some of these, and we actually got some finished for a particular organization. I was like, yay, victory dance. I thought, oh my God, where is this coming from? Because, I've never done a victory dance in the office before, but it just wanted to come up to me. I think that's I think that's, you know, one of my the major flip charts that my business mentor uses is celebrate all successes. And even though it's a small thing, that the value of celebrating it is enormous. And we never know how much closer we're going to get to something that's bigger. So I think it's almost about throwing it out there. You know, on another event I was at, I was told I was going to do a leap of faith, and I had no idea what this leap of faith thing was. And it turns out you have to climb off a thing that looks like a telegraph pole and jump off the top. And I thought, shit, no, I can't do that. I definitely can't do that. But I watched somebody else do it who was a bit older than me and heavier than me. And I thought, damn it, if she can get up that pole and jump off the top, I sure as hell can. And I just did it. And, you know, it's really thinking about it too much that would have got in my way. Even now, I find it hard to believe that I did. I have to look at the video just to remind myself, really, so that I can actually believe myself. But I really do believe anything is possible.
That's brilliant. I love all of that, and the fact that you just did it. There was an opportunity.
Yeah, I think I was a bit crazy, but
both examples was that spontaneous. Well, yeah, acting in the moment, being spontaneous. Particularly the celebration. It's like, yeah, it feels like the right thing to do. I'd like to dwell on that a little bit when you said about getting in touch with that innate happiness. From what I'm hearing there, that innate well-being, that you've got everything you need.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a place to come from. And I would suggest that, well, a place of where it's a high level of consciousness where, yeah, well, any thinking around what we want in the future is probably going to be with more clarity, as you said, but uncontaminated with any value or thinking about consequences and what it will give you. And coming back to that point about acting with spontaneity and in the moment, you're in the moment. That's where new things are happening. That is where life is unfolding. The past and the future, no, they're just in our thinking. Whether we think about the past and what it means, and okay, it's nice to reflect about what we've learnt, picking up on Gunter's point, but the future, yeah, it's uncertain what's going to unfold. And we can be constantly curious, to come back to the word before from Sandie about, yeah, I might surprise myself here. Surprising myself again and again and again. And it's coming from that place of innate happiness you talked about. So I'm wondering, just from Niko's perspective, about, yeah, that place from which you created the idea of the conference and the new things you're, yeah, putting in place, where that's come from, in a way that you're creating things with, from what I'm hearing, a place where, well, there's everything is possible. That's the title of the conference, ironically, or not ironically. You're just open to things in a different way. Where's that coming from?
I think like the big difference is that in the past, I used to have a lot of good ideas. And the way it seems to work is that, you know, who knows where the ideas come from? They just come to you. I mean, just a new, fresh thought. And usually they are followed by this inspired feeling, right? So you have this idea, and then you feel this inspiration. You just want to go there, and you start to see, you know, it starts to take shape, whatever it is. In my case, it was a conference. But as time goes by, you know, for whatever reason, our intellect kicks in and starts to feed us with all sort of excuses for why it's not going to work. You know, like this is too big. This is impossible for you to do this, or you don't know how to do it. And that's something that's very common for us. Is that we don't, because I didn't know how to do it, so I didn't have all the steps figured out. So the more I thought about that, you know, the more I had excuses for not going for it. And also when I had all that thinking, you know, the inspired feeling faded. And there was a moment when it looked like, okay, I've lost the inspiration. I can't do this. You know, I need to feel inspired to do this. But since I've come to know a little bit about how thought to thought feeling connection works, and started to see where our experience comes from, I realized that I don't need to care about that. I don't need to care about that. I'm not feeling inspired right now, and I don't need to care about that. I don't know all the how-dos, the next steps. I don't have all of them figured out. So then it became more about just taking the next step. What's the next step? What can you do here? And just like seeing there's always something that you can do. And there may be an area where you don't see what's next, like something. For example, for me, for a long time, I didn't have a name for the conference. And because I didn't have a name, I couldn't really ask someone to create me a logo, because you kind of need a name in order to have a logo or something like that. So in a way, I was kind of stuck there. But also, on the other hand, there was a lot of things that I could do. There's always something that I could do just to, build the momentum, get things rolling. And then also, because I understood that if I can spend a lot of time trying to find a name, the perfect name, figure it out, whatever. I could do that, spend a lot of time on that. Or I could just leave it for now and trust that it will come to me. At the right moment, I will have it. And that's exactly what happened. And all of a sudden I had a name, and then I could go forward with that. Then I contacted someone about, doing it's like graphic design. So because I had the name, that was possible now. So things started to roll on that front as well. So I guess what I've kind of learned from this is that two things. Like you don't need to feel inspired. It's not about feeling inspired all the time. We have this idea that if you want to build something big, if you want to make the impossible possible, you need a lot of inspiration and motivation. They're kind of the same thing, because we think that we need to have this certain kind of feeling in order to be able to take action, and that's just a misunderstanding because you can take. Anyway, you're feeling inspiration doesn't even know about what you're doing. It doesn't know about, like in my case, when I'm feeling inspired, that feeling doesn't know that I'm creating a conference or whatever. It's just a response to my state of mind in the moment. And of course, when we are feeling inspired, there seems to be a bit of a flow. So that's good. But like trying to get to that inspired feeling in order to, get the flow, that's often the thing that keeps us. So when you just start to take action, usually that feeling comes. You start feeling inspired, or you don't. But it doesn't matter because you can still do things whether you're inspired or not. So that's one thing. And the second thing is this thing about, like one of the, I guess, at least for me in the past, what was one of the biggest limitation was the idea that if I don't see all the steps, if I don't know if I don't have all the skills right now, or the technical knowledge, whatever, I can't do this. Whereas what I've come to see is that just, there's certain things that I know how to do. There's certain things that I can learn to do. And there's certain things that I simply don't have the time right now to learn to do, like graphic design for a website or whatever. Well, there's always someone I can reach out to. There are people who can help me out with these kind of things. So, like, not knowing how to do something isn't really a problem in today's world. It just isn't, because the knowledge is available and the people with the right skills are available. And yeah, so I think those are the things that I've come to learn through this process.
And that's fantastic. I'd love to hear from someone else rather than me sort of saying what I heard there, because there was some amazing stuff in there, Niko. And thank you for that. Anyone else want to just come straight in there?
just wanted to say exactly what I was going to say, not in the same way, but never mind. But it's all to do with we don't know, when we don't know how to do something, that's where we stop. That's where we usually stop, because we can't see any further. So we just stop. We just think, oh, that's just not for me. Can't do it. Another excuse, as you said. But it's really, it feels so real anyway. It feels so genuine in a way. I've been through it myself, where I was thinking, I've been told, oh, maybe you should consider doing some group coaching. And I just thought, what? I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to create a group or how to coach in a group and that sort of thing. So I just thought, no, it's just not for me. But when you just open to the possibility that, that's probably possible to do. Don't even think about how you're going to be able to do it. Don't go there, but allow for something bigger to, not something bigger to occur, but just there's something behind you. I mean, there's something there, which you're able to do anything that you want. The only thing that's preventing you from doing it is just your thinking. That's all it is. But the moment you start taking action, that's where the magic happens, really. That's what I think anyway. And that's happened for me. And if it's happened for me, then, I've got no doubt it's going to happen for anyone. Yeah.
Lovely. And it can feel so simple, isn't it? Just taking action. But like you say, around our thinking preventing us in taking that action. And there's some kind of fear there. Or as Niko was saying, I need to know the steps. I think I'd love to come up with an example. I'm sure someone might have one in mind. When people have created big, great things, whether it's growing a company, a film that took years, they say, if I'd known what was involved, I'm not sure I would have done it. And then someone says, but are you still glad you did it? And they went, yeah, this is amazing. And what goes from here is amazing. And that's the way it works. We are responding and we are coming up with solutions, and stuff comes to us, ideas, ways to navigate our way forward. And that, for me, becomes an iterative process, because then you get, there is some, I'm not sure momentum is the right word, but you are getting some kind of feedback. And that idea, as Gunter was saying, well, it's just, there's some learning and there's always setbacks. And if you're going to be creating something that, in my thinking right now, is impossible, big, and then I'll think even more impossible, and to make it really impossible, really, really impossible, well, I'm creating a feeling there, and some kind of, it's so beyond my comprehension about what could be involved. I love what you were both saying about the how, the steps. They will be revealed. And okay, sometimes there is the dirty work that needs to be done, the logistics, the practicalities. But when we don't have much on our mind, the how-to seems to take care of itself. Or it's a lot less complicated than we could have imagined. And that's coming back to that point again and again. It's our thinking around something that stops us, or the feeling of whatever's associated with that trepidatious thinking, slightly fearful thinking, doubtful thinking, those doubtful, trepidatious, fearful feelings that we get in those moments when we're thinking about the future. Just like Fiona, when you said, just imagining being on the stage gives you the feeling. And isn't that amazing? And that's, how we define anxiety a lot of the time, that you can just think of doing something and it can create that feeling. Going back to Sandie's point, the power of thought, the power of us to believe our thinking in that moment, that should dictate how we act and what we do. And for me, it's recognizing, as we move the conversation on, that, being able to step out of that seems to be one of the keys. Any thoughts on being able to step out of that thinking?
Well, it brings me back to the point of stepping into the unknown and having the courage to do that, because you never know what shows up. You have no idea how life unfolds in the next minute, although you seem to always be reassured that you know how it's going to unfold. But unless you step out of the known into the unknown, nothing new can grow, nothing new can unfold.
And that point, I think Sandie, you were saying, it just, you don't know what's going to come up. It's just there. It's coming from a deeper place. And reflecting on both what Fiona and Niko were saying, it's just something's coming through us, and it's being open to that. And that place in the unknown, well, for me, that is the present moment. And that's definitely not a place where I'm overthinking something and I'm trying to work something out. And we talk about having big moments of inspiration and say, oh, that's the big goal. Well, maybe it's just little moments of inspiration. As we respond to life moment to moment, day by day, it's like, yeah. And sometimes there's days when we don't feel inspired. Well, we've suddenly created some thinking around it and we've turned it into something. But knowing how our experience is created, there may be a moment of inspiration one thought away. And that could be a crazy thing to think, that when we think, oh, I'll write this off this week, or I won't do that. And okay, we have our ways of working and how we respond to, how to manage our days and all this stuff. But knowing that, something fresh could be around the corner any second now. That seems to be another one of the keys for creating the impossible. Because we haven't got an idea. We haven't turned it into something. Niko?
Yeah, can you kind of say that again, because I lost you there for a moment. You are unmuted.
Yeah, Niko, I was just reflecting on being able to respond in the moment. And that's where the magic lies, moment to moment. And a fresh thought can be around the corner at any moment, day by day, minute by minute.
Well, the thing is that we can only ever respond in the moment. Like that's how life happens, and we, of course, we can, come up with we can prepare for something. We can prepare for some kind of a imagined scenario moment, and then prepare a response to that moment. But in that equation, we are not taking account one key part, which is an insight in the moment, like you said, a fresh thought in the moment. And we can never know beforehand what that will be. And I guess one of the learnings for me lately has also been that when in the past I used to imagine some kind of a scenario it's going to happen, and then I was so sure I know how I'm going to respond in that situation based on, for example, how I respond in the past, or my ideas about like how I am in that kind of situation. But the thing is that we can't know what we're gonna think and feel in that situation. And there's always the potential, as you said, there's always the potential for a new thought that brings a completely new experience. And from that place, your response to something every day, like an everyday situation, like your response to some kind of everyday situation can be completely different because of that new thought, new thinking.
And on that basis, coming towards the end of this conversation, which there is going to be a part 2 because it's such a big subject. And Niko, I'd be interested in your thoughts about creating the impossible. What you've learned is it a good idea to just come up with this big crazy idea and then just do exactly what you were saying?
Well, the thing is that I don't know how much credit I can take to coming up with the idea. It's more like it just came to me. It's really, there was a moment, it's a very specific moment. I'm not going to go into details now because I know there's not that much time left, but there's a very specific moment when I realized that, oh, I want to do this. I want to have my own conference. And then just that kind of unlocked a lot of new thoughts. So
just lost you, Niko.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Back, yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. So that for me, it wasn't so much of a conscious process of figuring out what's something I can do, or what's the impossible thing I can do. So creating the impossible, it seems to me that the impossible thing, rather than you coming up with it, it comes to you. And another thing I just want to point to, just kind of highlight, is that when we talk about creating the impossible, and when we talk about just kind of, I don't know, staying in the game, whether you feel inspired or not, just stay in the game, go forward, do something, do actions. But the thing is that sometimes the right thing to do is actually to give up. And I just want to say that because life is only going to go one way. And sometimes there's a, we are doing something where we have had an inspired diary and we're following it, and then, something maybe doesn't feel right, or we have this thing that this is not really going anywhere, but we'll still push and push and push because whatever reason. But there's nothing wrong about giving up, really. I think that's an important point to keep in mind, that it's also okay to just leave it there. Okay, this didn't work out. I tested, I tried, didn't work out. This didn't build to anything. Okay, what's next? Anyway, the process was perfect. Like, life was unfolding perfectly. You give it a go, you gave it a go, you did what you did, you learned what you learned. And because what you did, you're here now. And from where you're now, you're going to go somewhere. And just like that's something, because there's a bit of a tendency maybe in personal development, self-improvement world. There's some people that say, just take action and go and push and all that kind of things, and don't stop until they make it. And that can, that can itself, that idea can be a limitation itself to something else, to creating something, even more bigger, or whatever that means.
Lovely. And I think it was Gunter that said it's an evolutionary process. And I think what I heard you say there is that knowing when to give up involves maintaining, let's just say, a level of awareness. Because suddenly if we see this goal, it's like, it's becoming more possible. Often people do fail just before they start fixating on it, when before they were very open to it, open to things unfolding and being curious. And it's an evolving process. Any thoughts there, Gunter? Because it's pointing to what you were saying earlier, really.
Well, it's really been like this throughout man's history. Everything we've done started off somewhere and then went on to whichever way we did, whether we explored the oceans, the seas, the mountains, Mallory climbing Everest, or attempting to. It's an evolution. But you need to take a step, and you need to take a second step, and pursue whatever it is that is your vision, your dream, your goal. And as Niko says, now there may also be occasions where you need to realize that this is no longer supporting me, and let it go. It's a learning process.
And from what I hear there, it's likely by being curious and being open to just being able to, there's no attachment there, let go, something else is just going to appear. And it might take a little while, or it might just appear. It's open to, I love the idea of movement. Things are always moving. They're always growing and changing. Just, it's when we try and create, we fix something and it becomes this thing. There's no movement there. It's dead, if you like. Particularly if we've conceptualized it in a way or created meaning out of something. So I love that the words were coming up, really, this evolution, this growth, this curiosity, this openness. And then just, I think we're coming towards an end, really, for Fiona and Sandie to come in. Just, some concluding remarks. I'll unmute both of you, so you can just both come in.
I would just add on to this that, sometimes you just think that it's not going anywhere. So you just, like what you said, Niko, you just stop it, but sometimes it comes back to you. And that can be really surprising. And that's what's happened to me anyway. But it's quite surprising when I let go of something that I thought I couldn't do, and then it just came back a few months after when I was ready. So it might be some sort of thing around this as well, about being ready.
I think sometimes, like you say, Sandie, it's something you come back to, and it may be that it's something that's, I know for me, it's something that's sort of popped up into my reality, and it's like a dream, but I think, no, it's not possible, so I'd sort of put it down. And then a few years later, up it pops again, and I think, oh, it's still there, what's going on? And it doesn't seem like it's possible now, so I ignore it, and it just keeps popping back up. So in the end, I get to the stage where I think, okay, I'm listening now. I surrender. I'm listening now. I don't know where it's going to go, but it's there. And you just never know. Things just, when you let go of the way you want things to be, or what you really, really want in any specific way, somehow things just turn up. And I can't explain that. It just happens.
That's beautiful.
I think it's called life, Fiona.
And life is not something we can control. And that just, I love that, the way he said, just about letting go. And it's coming from somewhere else. It's not coming from my thinking and fixating on it and working hard at it. Whether it's the big vision or just, letting things unfold and being open to that evolution. And the more open we are, new stuff can keep coming in. That point about the unknown and what we think we know. That's what limits us. Even what I think my progress is, or what my potential is, that's limiting me. because that's stopping that flow. I make it seem like it comes from up there. Well, it does come out of the blue, and the sky is blue, so I'll go with that. And just knowing that that source is, well, it's potentially a infinite reservoir of fresh thinking, and therefore fresh possibility. And just being in the flow of that, being in the flow of life, as Gunter says. So I think on that note, any final comments? Niko, is there anything you'd just like to say to just finish? And then, yeah, part 2 will continue next week.
Well, I just want to say I really look forward to the part 2 and what the people who's going to be on that call what they will, come up with. I think this is something, what just reflecting back what we've done here, I think this is something that's relevant for everybody. Like, it really is a topic that everyone can, resonate with. And what I like about this, our conversation, is that usually the conversation stays in the kind of a behavior level, or it looks to different techniques or ways to reach to a goal, to get to a goal, or to manage your different state of minds and that kind of things. And just like, I guess what we are pointing here is that that's unnecessary, and it's not about going, or I don't know, I have this comfort zone idea in my mind, because we have this idea that there's something called comfort zone, and then you can go the other side, like you should push yourself on the other side, and then when you go over beyond your comfort zone, beyond your comfort zone, then you can make the impossible become possible, whatever. But we are talking about the comfort zone like it's a real thing, like something real. And I guess like there's a lot of people out there who are saying what you should do in order to get out of your comfort zone or crush your comfort zone, whatever. And I think it's only about becoming aware that it's not real. And the same with the limitation, is becoming aware, having that awareness of the illusion in nature of the limitations. And it's that awareness that's the key, that's the gateway to really creating the impossible, making the impossible come true.
And the comfort zone is a concept anyway. It's just a concept. It's made up, completely made up. So, yeah.
Well, a comfort zone is made up. Yes, it's a concept, but it's our known world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's where we start off from.
Yeah.
Lovely. It feels like a perfect place to finish there. It's creating the impossible involves stepping into the unknown. I'm just going to leave it there. And for anyone watching, there will be a part 2. I'll be facilitating, and there'll be 4 or 5 other wonderful coaches. And yeah, thanks for everyone who has been watching. And as tradition, I just, I thank everyone for participating. Fiona, Sandie, Niko and Gunter. And just ask everyone to basically wave goodbye. And thank you for your contributions. And basically, I'll just stop recording in a few seconds.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.